Right, we're rolling. On this podcast, we'll be talking about different areas of business and all things marketing. My name is Dave Doyle.
And I'm Dave Alton. This is Social Antics, another marketing podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to Social Antics, another marketing podcast. This is week 8. My own name is Dave Doyle and I'm joined by Dave Alton. How are you this week, Dave?
He's gone. The orange man is out of office. Big Joe takes the lead, takes Georgia. Game over. Absolutely brilliant.
He could still do it.
No, he's not on and on. Recounts over. Let us have a week. Let's have a week of just peace and calm, and there is somebody with a brain in the White House with their hand over the big red button, and that's all that we need. Now, 70 million Americans still voted for the orange man after 4 years of racism and Twitter rants and all caps and terrible grammar, but at the same time, he's gone. I was going to say justice has prevailed, but democracy has kind of worked in this instance. Again, 70,000 absolute lunatics in America still think that he's the best man for the job, but Biden got in.
I'd say you were waiting all week to talk about this, right?
Oh, I was just like, because I said a couple of weeks ago, all you want from an American president is that they're dignified, safe pair of hands, and that's all it is. They're a bit of a role model, dignified. That's all you absolutely need. Trump was the absolute antithesis of that, and Big Joe is in. Now, one of the weakest candidates to ever run for the presidency, Biden. Terrible debater, very, very unclear what his policies are. So his job is basically to correct all of the...
Put everything into reverse, basically.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you were to describe a great president as an architect, Joe Biden is just a fireman. He's just putting the fire out of the house without having to build it up again. Yeah. So they're going to go back into the agreements that they pulled out of, and again restore some semblance of dignity to that office.
His slogan really should have been, "I'm not Trump."
I'm not Trump. That's what people voted for. I said it last week. It wasn't that people were voting for Biden. It was that people weren't voting for Trump.
And again, who it was.
And it shows you that. I think it shows you that given how kind of uninspired or uninspirational Biden was as a presidential candidate, the fact that he got the most votes ever out of any president in history showed how much a lot of America just were not going to tolerate another 4 years of Trump. Again, because it must be embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I've ever been embarrassed by a president.
It's kind of been so much, it's probably been so much of the focal point of conversation in America, and even when they come abroad, like the minute you go America, Trump bound to come up somewhere.
100%. Like, I mean, I'd say I drove some of the American students in my class absolutely crazy, like, because I mean, if I was lecturing and we were talking about something like Colin Kaepernick or any of these campaigns that marketers have done over the last number of years,
Trump was involved in something somewhere.
He's always, and even if it's not him directly, his kind of the invisible hand of Trump, be it racism or discrimination or something like that, is kind of built into the campaign in some way, shape or form. And again, I turn around to these students and go, look, to be perfectly honest with you, everyone from Western civilization looking in at your country thinks it's just an incredibly crazy political environment joke. And they're all kind of looking, going, because again, Americans, a lot of them like to see themselves as the superpower, the leading light, the world power in everything that they do, or the leader in everything that they do. And for the last 4 years, it was the opposite of that. It was a complete embarrassment. Like, when you're looking at Vladimir Putin and you're going, yeah, do you know what? He's a bit more dignified than the other fella.
I wouldn't cross him.
Yeah, a former KGB agent who tortured his victims is coming across as more dignified as the American president. You know something's going wrong. But and again, it just shows you the insanity. His carry on since the election ended, and the carry on by Fox.
Talk about sore loser, like, you know, it's he's not going to go out there walking proud, like, you know,
no, someone actually.
It's going to be interesting the next couple of weeks to see how it goes.
Oh no, because it could, like, I mean, I presume again the justice system will just go through the motions and the result will be the result. But I mean, the idea that he was president, given his reaction afterwards, is incredibly. It must be incredibly upsetting for people, but it just shows you how much of a catastrophe he was in the first place. Like, I genuinely believe, kind of same with Brexit and same with Trump, even though there was a lot of manipulation in terms of Cambridge Analytica and all that kind of stuff. I genuinely think a lot of people voted for the extreme yes in the case of Brexit, or leave in the case of Brexit, and then in terms of Trump actually voting for Trump, it was almost like the world's biggest ever social experiment. Like what would happen if he actually got into office.
Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes, kind of a thing, because it's something different.
Well, I'm delighted it didn't happen the second time around, and Mr. West, Kanye West, didn't get in, because that was kind of
60,000 votes in fairness.
Yeah,
like 60,000 absolute ridiculous trollops voted for Kanye West as president. Now, I would say 60,000 of those people were smarter than the 70 million people that voted for Trump, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, he still wasn't Trump.
Enough about that. But actually, from a marketing perspective, there is actually a lesson here in that I mentioned Kaepernick now a while ago. A lot of brands, particularly when they're marketing in the US, have engaged in, like we spoke about, woke marketing a number of weeks ago, and kind of looking at politically contentious or socially contentious issues and then building their campaign around that. A lot of the American campaigns have been engaged towards anti-racism, social justice and things like that. With Biden in charge, you would imagine there should be a lot less than that if his supporters calm the fuck down a bit and stop being racist bigots for a while.
I saw a couple of articles there during the week that basically was talking about how the area kind of almost predictability is going to come in now, like, that it's going to be back to the old way of, look, nothing's exciting, we're going to have to come up with it, we're going to have to be a little bit creative, I suppose, like, so they're not waiting for news stories to come, they're going to have to actually come up with stuff, like, it's going to go back, as you said, it's going to be back firefighting and putting out all those fires that were put in. Now
what I was surprised by, though, in fairness, is that I thought as soon as it was announced that Biden was basically favoured to do it, I was surprised that Nike or someone like that didn't come out with
no one had something waiting to go.
Something to go. Like, I was expecting them to come out with some sort of a kind of the work isn't done or something like that. Like, I mean, like, again, America is it's incredibly racist country, incredibly divisive, huge amount of discrimination, huge amount of social issues. A lot of countries are, but I mean, America in particular has suffered from this, particularly in the last number of years. Just because Biden is elected, those problems don't just go away. Like, Trump was the result of a symptom as opposed to being the cause of the racist behaviour in America. He was something that emerged from all that. So I think it's important that, again, a lot of marketers have done a lot of good work in this area, and a lot of people more so have done a huge amount of work in this area, and it's important that isn't just forgotten about just because, again, Big Joe is in the White House. Do you know what I mean?
Big Joe.
Big Joe.
I actually look, it kind of summed it all up for me when the kind of the big announcement came out that he was pretty much after doing it. He was obviously with his team and the whole lot and doing what you would do in that scenario. Where was Trump? On the golf course,
on the golf course, of course. Like, because what do you do when you've lost your job? You go on the golf course, especially that job. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no. So we'll see what way it goes. I think actually what's funny from the Irish point of view is every town seems to be finding their connections to Joe Biden at the moment.
I hate it when we do that. I hate it. You're Irish, be proud of being Irish. Don't try and find some long lost bloody connection with the like, just stop. Stop.
I think, is it Mayo or somewhere up that side west of Ireland is basically, they claimed them first. Ballina, they're saying that there's relatives there, and I think there is, like, cousins, they've been invited to America and all to meet them and stuff. I think it's very strong connections, but even seen down closer to my hometown in Wexford, like, I seen that there's connections there as well, like, so they're all going to be phoning them looking for them to come visit.
Of course, of course. But sure, there's in Moneygall there's a service station named after Obama, which is a bit
was it the Barack Obama Plaza or something like that? It's called Moneygall. But that was brilliant when he came and he visited there, and the whole I had to point in the pub, like, it's really good. And I think we're going to probably get a good bit more of that coming from Joe, because
it was a pure bit force. So it was a bit, here's Uncle Johnny now with no teeth, like.
Well, I think we're going to probably get a lot of that from, as you say, Big Joe.
Probably Big Joe's coming to Ireland to meet his long lost ancestors. Yeah.
So we going to any news this week popping up?
Oh, that's the only news. We can cut it there. We can cut it there. Thanks for listening. We'll drive on. In terms of news, you have big news this week.
Do I?
You do have news, apparently.
Yeah, I started a new role this week, a new job, something to pay the bills on the daytime. This is not paying us.
Exactly, that's the trick, isn't it? That's the trick. So, I mean, from what, just to kind of give the listeners a bit of an introduction, basically it's I suppose it's it's a startup company in the coffee space, but I mean, you're looking to make this a national and an international brand over the course of the next, we say, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, 100%. And even for, as you say, a startup and a very local brand, they're pretty much on the path already, in fairness. So set up a couple of years ago out of a cafe in Cork City. It's called Velo. It was a Cafe Velo at the time. They started roasting their own coffee beans. And then started branching in pretty much full time now, and now they are full time coffee roasters. So Velo Coffee Roasters is the name of the company. So I'm after coming in this week as a brand and business development manager. Quite a small team. There's probably about 10, 11 of us. 5 on the kind of management team, and the rest of the guys are down, you know, in the production and roasting and stuff like that. So it's very, very interesting space. I've never worked in coffee or anything like that before, so it's just so much to learn. Very complicated. There's a lot behind it you wouldn't realise, and you know, learn about the origins, the beans and the farms and all this kind of stuff. So there's a good bit involved with really, really interesting stuff. And the guy there, Liam, who's the master roaster for Velo, he's an absolute genius when it comes to coffee. He knows everything. So yeah, so we're going to see what we can do with it. There's plenty of opportunities, and you know, as you say, kind of taking it national, international. It's kind of rose a good bit in the last few months, thanks to COVID. You know, online sales have absolutely flew for the business, and that's what's been keeping that company afloat over the last few months.
Well, I think it's actually interesting that you just mentioned the online sales there, because like even a very small number of years ago, if you went into any brand who was again selling coffee, for example, you would never really have thought that, oh, this is a product that can actually thrive in an online environment, because you've got so many. There's 2 reasons, I suppose. One, you've got so many local options available to you, and kind of besides that as well, when we think online, we think kind of Amazon, e-commerce, multinational brands. But then when you think coffee, you're thinking craft, artisan, locally roasted and stuff like that. So it's interesting that in that world, the kind of craft roaster is still doing incredibly well. I think you see a lot more of that happening as well, with kind of those craft artisan products looking to scale to a global audience.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that across a lot of industries. Like, you know, we would have seen it, you know, with whiskey, we've seen it with obviously with beer, with craft beers and stuff. And I think I think people's perceptions have gone. They're really looking for that quality, that support local, that local business, you know, who's involved in it. So I think that's where the kind of the artisan thing, and you get this feeling, I suppose, when you hear artisan, you hear small producer and all this, you get that real, this is quality, you know, there's a bit of love gone into this, it's not mass produced kind of stuff, like, you know. So I think that's where that kind of area has probably grown out of in the last couple of years.
Do you do is there a subscription model, or is it just products?
No. So you go on site, you looking to buy something, are you?
See, I'm one of these people now that if I like something, I'll buy it, but I want it to be bought automatically. I don't like the great thing about Netflix or any of these is that it's just paid and I only think about it again. Yeah. Same
so
thing.
So for anyone out there like Dave, anyone that's lazy and couldn't do the monthly buy-in, there is monthly subscriptions, and I think there's even Clever there he has. So there's a couple of products that have been award winning. So like there's the Blosh and Herons and the Great Taste Awards. They've won those, so like you can buy a Blosh.
For all of our UK listeners and our few listeners in Mexico, what does Blosh and Heron mean?
It's basically the industry standard for food awards in Ireland, basically. Quite worldly recognised at the moment now, which is great. But a lot of Irish producers doing very, very well at the moment out of it. But basically, there's Blosh subscriptions. There's there's other ones. There's one I really like, which is like a mystery subscription, so you can basically get a different blend every time you get a new package out, or different roast, I should say. So like that's kind of fun, you know, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that. So on the site, you know, we're selling everything from the machines down to the beans and the accessories, and you know, stuff for brewing at home and all this kind of stuff. So it's great. It's really, really, really interesting. But then on the ground kind of stuff then as well, obviously we're selling into retail and we do food service, and you know, we're going down the maybe a bit of the commercial route now as well, coming down the road. So plenty of avenues for business. So definitely a multi-channel business. Good
stuff. Best of luck with it.
Thank you very much.
So moving on, anything on your agenda this week?
My agenda? No, I think one thing that I've kind of started noticing, look, we're not going to go too much into it because it's going to come down, as I've been saying to you, when John Lewis get their finger at their certain place and get their Christmas video out.
We can do a focus topic just on Christmas videos.
We were hoping it'd be out for tonight, so they kind of screwed up our content for today.
They did, yeah.
So basically we're kind of in that zone, I suppose, now. Christmas has come along, and I think definitely with what's happened this year with COVID, Christmas is going to come a bit early. I seen places. There's a co-working space here in Cork City, Republic of Work. They had their Christmas tree up maybe 3 weeks ago. which is madness.
I saw that it was the day of the lockdown, wasn't it? It was right.
Yeah,
we're in lockdown.
Like,
get the Christmas tree out.
Get the Christmas tree out, like, you know. So it was up before Halloween weekend, but I think a lot of businesses are going that way, and a lot of businesses are definitely putting a big focus on Christmas this year. So we're starting to see, which we expect at this time, you know, the big boys are starting to bring out their Christmas adverts now. But no sign of John Lewis yet, which obviously is, you know, people wait for every year. So we're waiting for that one. We'll probably go into a bit more this year. But there's a few ones after coming out this week now from, I know Aldi's after bringing their Where's Kevin campaign is back, and
Disney had one,
and I wasn't a massive fan of it, to be honest. I didn't
enjoy
like
the Disney one. I think we save our critique of the ads for the special.
You've done enough critique there at the start.
That's it, yeah, that's it. But no, it is interesting. This coming into Christmas. What I'm interested in is how many videos are COVID related versus how many of them just do a story with no reference to COVID whatsoever. I think if they all, there's a balance, right? I think if they all do COVID stuff, people are just going to be like, oh, mother of God, more COVID, like, do you know what I mean? Whereas it's also quite a difficult thing to ignore at this time. So I'm going to be really interested with how, in this kind of dystopian world that we're currently living in, that marketers are able to, like, ultimately these videos are, okay, there can be a variance of different emotions in terms of sadness, joy, and so on and so forth, but how do you take an environment which is pretty bleak at the moment and turn that into something joyful,
turn it into a tearjerker?
Yeah, and that's going to want to make some relation with their brand.
As I said, you're kind of, you know, you're kicking me off the subject already, but I think the one I will mention is definitely Super Value. It came out when this podcast comes out, it'll probably be 2 or 3 days old, but Super Value done exactly what you done, and just going on the back of what you said, the early ones to the race will definitely win, but the more and more, as you said, this content that comes out is going to be watched. So Super Value got in there early. You know, it's an absolutely fantastic video. I won't ruin the ending like any good movie, so go and have a look at it. Surely we do. Surely we have to talk about. We'll talk about the focus episode. We'll talk about the focus.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
The grandfather comes in at the end of the video.
You just read.
So
I'm not going to tell you the punchline, but he dies.
So no, that's what happened. So basically, it's all around COVID and family, and, you know, returning for Christmas and all this kind of stuff, and missing out on not seeing family for months on end. So I think, as you said, like, you know, the more companies that do this, it's going to become a bit more washed. So companies have to be really creative. I did hear a rumor though that John Lewis had some sort of a video done and they had to redo it.
They canned it, yeah. So
obviously wasn't appropriate. Just keep it for next year.
That's it, yeah. They probably will. Will.
I'd say that's because they're probably at the stage, look, this video is done, it's in the pipeline, we're working on next year's video. They have a team doing this, obviously, like, you know. So I'd say that was a couple of weeks out to Christmas, or whenever, this couple of months even out, you know, a short space of time. I'd say there was pandemonium, I'd say, in that office.
Probably, yeah, but like everywhere else, to be honest with you, I don't have a huge amount of sympathy for John Lewis in that regard. But anyway, keep the critique going, yeah. So in other news, Pfizer have announced that they may have a vaccine for COVID-19, which would be brilliant. What was interesting, I think, about this is, like, I mean, the first thing that I did, I saw the news come up on Twitter, and it was probably about maybe an hour or two after the announcement. So instinctively, the first thing that I did,
next day or something,
something like that, yeah. And then, like, what I did, the first thing that I did was check the stock price, which I just found interesting.
Checking how your money is it?
How much has it gone up? Can I quit the day job and do the podcast as a full-time endeavour, which I'd need a hell of a lot of money to do, to be perfectly honest with you.
So are we on a winner?
Not really, no. I mean, we're kind of, no, look, I mean, to be fair, look, the innovation going on here is absolutely incredible. They've done something that no other drug company has done before, but the stock on the opening day closed at around 7% up on its closing price on the Friday. And I saw it and I was like, what the fuck? Like, without actually looking at what the vaccine was, I was like, surely this is not
some sort of PR, like this
there's
would
something
drive it
going
up,
out, like. But no, to be fair, what it basically is that because of the innovation and the uniqueness, and I'm not going to pretend to be a biochemical engineer here, I don't know what I'm talking about, but basically the vaccine, for it to be effective, has to be consistently stored at 70 degrees Celsius, which basically means that in terms of a global or worldwide rollout, there is a huge amount of distribution, supply chain issues, cost issues associated, obviously, with that, because of the extreme conditions that the vaccine needs to be kept in for it to actually work and for it to maintain its test rate of about being 90% effective.
I saw they brought out that it is around that kind of...
Around 90% effective, yeah. So, like, I mean, It's very, very impressive. I think it's going to be brilliant because I can see this being rolled out in healthcare facilities, nursing homes, hospitals. So basically the most vulnerable in society can be catered for immediately. But it's not something that is going to be a worldwide solution. And there's other there's the results of other studies due in the next before the end of the year. So I think the favourite at the moment is a combined study between Oxford University and AstraZeneca. So again, they're going for what I believe is to be a more global solution to the COVID problem in terms of coming up with a vaccine. But again, fair play to Pfizer in terms of their the product development and what they've achieved. But again, it's not the solution that is going to solve all this problem, unfortunately.
I know we've kind of moved on from him now already, but we'll have to bring him back into the conversation again. Mr. Trump came out and slammed them, basically saying that why didn't you announce it before the election or the results?
I have a theory, right, that there was some manipulation around the date that they launched it for two reasons. One, Trump, obviously. Yeah. If it was announced before the election and he could stand out and go, I have cured COVID, it would have been... He probably would have won the election.
Yeah.
Like, because he just would have, more people would have turned out, a lot of the middle would have flipped.
Yeah.
Especially those tight states like Georgia. So, I mean, I think there was a delay because of that. And beyond that, it's just an interesting fun fact. I'm sure there was nothing to it. But the chief executive officer of Pfizer also happened to cash out the day that the announcement came out. Pfizer came out and said it was pre-planned and it was an automatic sale. It's not really automatic.
If it had a nice going away party, I'd say.
I think he cashed in something like 4.4 million or something like that.
Yeah,
so
pocket money.
Yeah, pocket money, exactly. But I thought that was two interesting coincidences, shall we say. So no, but I'm glad. I mean, to be fair, the PR team, I'm sure in Pfizer, would have looked at it and went, we can't go before the election. Yeah. It's going to look like it was staged. Like Pfizer, I would be highly critical of the pharmaceutical companies anyway in terms of their behaviours in a variety of different areas in terms of price manipulation, stuff like that, and what we refer to as non-market strategies. So bribing being one example of that. Not accusing Pfizer of bribing, but it's well known in the pharmaceutical industry, and things like that. So there are different strategies that they would have looked that they engage with, and if they had been a cause of Trump getting re-elected, I think that would have done them reputationally a huge amount of damage. So no, well done Pfizer for delaying the announcement of that, and congratulations to your CEO who's just bought a new house in the Hamptons.
Very good. I think another news article that kind of caught my attention this week, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, was Diageo's Guinness Zero. You were a big fan of it. I didn't even get to try it.
The water with a bit of black food there, yeah.
That one had a bit of a recall across the whole of the UK a couple of days ago. Only I think 3 weeks after launch into the market. Not a good start for that product.
What they described it as, I believe, microbiological contamination, which doesn't sound good.
I said I'd let you pronounce that.
It doesn't sound good. No, like, I mean, this is so.
Their statement said it's recommended not to drink
because it's unsafe, and it's usually if something is like, if anything goes wrong in a food kind of environment, you tend to put a bit of phraseology around, if it's cooked thoroughly or in small or lethal small. Yeah. This was just very blanket. This is unsafe. Do not drink it. So yeah, no, it's I think this is going to do them a huge amount of reputational damage, to be honest with you. Not so much the Guinness brand, because they were very clear on. I thought the statement was that
it was not classic.
It was not the classic brand. This is a new product, and it's
almost like the new team we took on after seriously fecking up here now. That kind of almost the way they went about it.
The intern got hold of the social media and basically ruined the whole thing for us. But that's what it came across as. And I think, and I would have been very interested to see how that went. Like, I mean, I would even see it now amongst there is a huge destigmatization around non-alcoholic products. Like, a lot of my buddies now would drink it if they're driving, or even if they're on a night out. What I found now is that because the bottle is quite distinctive, whether it's non-alcoholic or alcoholic, whereas a lot of them now are actually getting the pint of Heineken Zero, and they're drinking it.
Well, this was just cans release, but the whole plan, they said it in the statement, or I don't know if they said it in the statement or not, but the whole plan was to actually bring the pints of this into the bars in the new year when they got back up and running. So there was a big rollout ready for this to happen, and pretty much out the window.
Ironically,
Millions,
you
I'd
could say it was canned.
Oh,
Sorry,
I'm on a
listeners.
roll
Sorry,
today,
it's
aren't
just fucking disgrace. I apologise to everyone.
I'll-
Oh, that was terrible. I'm in
cut
such
that
a good mood. Big Joe's in the White House.
So go on. Anyway, what's next?
So other than that, then just to kind of little bit more kind of again the technical kind of marketing side of things, not as exciting, but I think really interesting more so than anything else. So an ROI genome report, which is a research agency based in the United States. They did an analysis of SMEs who used Amazon's digital advertising platform, basically. Okay. And they did that and they compared it to like Facebook, Google, and so on and so forth. And they basically showed that return on investment for customers, business customers, obviously using Amazon advertising is about 20% higher compared to other campaigns that they run via the other platforms when it comes to direct return on investment. And I thought what was even more interesting then on top of this was that the report showed that 48% of Amazon display ads actually impacted upon non-Amazon related sales, which I thought was quite interesting. Break that down there for anyone who hasn't a clue what you just said. So look, as a starting point, like in terms of Amazon's overall revenue, in terms of their ad model, it's up 51% to about $5.4 billion last quarter, which very impressive considering you'd never consider Amazon to be an advertiser, and they're actually one of the biggest advertisers in the world. 5.4 billion is no mean feat. But I suppose what it shows in terms of the overall return on investment, and I think this is an interesting one because a lot of Amazon's advertising is solely based on purchase. Mm-hmm. There's no brand building really goes on. It's all based on consumer trends data, which is something that Amazon have that a lot of the other companies don't have. Mm-hmm. Like even with Facebook, and I know you've got Instagram shopping and stuff like that, but predominantly the amount of sales that go through something like Facebook, there is another step, i.e. you have to go to the branded website before you do it, exactly. Yeah. So with Amazon and their advertising platform, because it's more direct to sale, in that there's less clicks the user has to go through, there's probably more impulse buying, and the user, because it's entirely based on user behavior or consumer behavior, they're obviously presenting users with very relevant ads at the point where they're thinking of a purchase. Yeah. And this is why the ROI is at that 20%. So I mean, again, it just shows you some of the biggest advertisers in the world, Facebook, Instagram, and Amazon, who you wouldn't even consider to be an advertiser, really are stealing the march on them in terms of the effectiveness of their overall ad model. So I think it's another interesting trend. Like what I'm quite interested at the moment in terms of my own research is this concept of the death of brand. In that before you would go through a huge consumer behavior kind of decision making process in terms of when you were going to buy something, whereas in a world where you say Alexa I want, or you go on to Amazon and the products are presented to you, there's no brand building goes on there.
But even as simple as something as you said there, the more of that kind of Alexa give me this kind of attitude that comes in and actual shopping goes through that voice, you're putting an order in, you're not saying I want that in specific in terms of brands really or anything like that. I think we've talked a little bit about this before. Sure, of course, what are they going to send you out? But something that's benefiting them, like, you know.
Exactly,
so,
yeah, 100%.
Like, you have no choice over your shop anymore.
And even if you take Amazon out of this, what I think is quite interesting is that if you look at the search trends and terms on Amazon, a lot more people are now searching for things like face cream, which includes the ingredients X, Y, and Z, as opposed to searching for L'Oreal face cream. Yeah. So people are looking for benefits and ingredients as opposed to looking at brands. And again, it shows a step away. And obviously with brands like your Lacoste, your Burberry's, your Car, do you know what I mean? Those kind of public facing brands that people wear or people outwardly kind of expressly consume. That isn't the case, but in terms of consumer packaged goods products or fast moving consumer products,
even something as simple as you think about, like the likes of, like I'm at the moment looking to get a new phone in the next couple of weeks, right? So I've been searching for top phones with best camera, all this kind of stuff, as you're saying, like, you know, so you're getting stuff purely based on reviews, as you said, tags, keywords, all this kind of stuff. I'm not going in and saying, you know, Samsung Galaxy S20, whatever it is, you know, I'm not typing in the phone name unless I want something specific to that phone or doing a comparison between that and another phone or whatever it is. I'm typing in best camera, best phone on the market, best laptop on the market. Do you know, best laptop for this?
And you know the one brand that circumvents that?
Go on.
Your favourite brand in the
Go
world?
on.
Apple.
Stupid fucking products. We'll never get a sponsorship off Apple.
Big luxury. They can sponsor me.
Yeah.
Specifically, Apple. In terms of a luxury brand, most powerful brand in the world. Margins of and I am robbing this quote from somewhere. The volume sales of a Volvo, margins of a Ferrari. Absolute genius business model. They're the only luxury product in the world that is owned by almost 50% of the population. If 50% of the population owns something, it's not a luxury brand. It's not an exclusive brand. But yet Apple have carved out this image for themselves that they are.
They're the only cult that's socially acceptable.
Oh, that's a good point. And the cult of Big Joe. Don't forget the cult of Big Joe. 74 million Americans voting the right way.
I wonder. Actually, while you're saying that now, I wonder how Joe will tackle the whole TikTok thing.
Oh, I think he's got so many other issues. I reckon it'll be fine. I reckon it'll be absolutely.
Work away, lads. Put up videos of me dancing all you want.
I don't think, to be honest with you, it was it doesn't, because in reality, right? So there's a whole geopolitical problem with that anyway, right? If you restrict TikTok, that is basically the United States saying to any corporation, doesn't matter if they're Chinese, they're European. If you come in and you operate within our region and invest whatever amount of billions it is to extend into the United States, we as the US government, based on unproven findings or unproven statistics in terms of how we view your product, we can take it out. Now, I know there's some instances where they've done that in the past, but not in relation to a product like TikTok.
Am I right in saying, I could be totally wrong now, did TikTok know something about they're coming into Ireland this week or launching something in Ireland?
Loads of jobs. I think TikTok are already in Ireland. I think they announced that they're expanding from, I could get this wrong now. I think it's from 20 employees up to 900 over the next couple of months. I think.
Fair jump there.
It's not bad, right? TikTok, you're welcome here. We won't block your brand. But
Michael D won't kick you.
Michael D won't kick you out of Ireland. No, absolutely not. So yeah, no, that's all that was there in terms of Amazon. So again, it's just an interesting point, I suppose, to make more so than anything else. Because again, like as advertisers, you're always going to look at a cost benefit analysis. If you've got a budget, how much do I allocate towards Facebook? How much do I allocate towards Instagram? And I think predominantly at the moment, the majority of ad dollars are going into Facebook and Instagram. And maybe as Amazon does get more saturated, it becomes less effective. But again, if you're looking at the statistics,
I think anyone that's listening in that maybe even a small local business listening in that maybe have a product that's, you know, it's probably a bit easier. I'm not quite sure. I haven't looked too much into it. Maybe something that's not perishable, or you know, food that has to be stored cold or anything like this kind of stuff. But if you have, you know, like a brand, like there's a guy I'm kind of speaking with there at the moment. I think he's actually listening in. He does a local. He makes his own soaps and stuff like that. Like, you know, why not start looking at Amazon as a platform to start selling your products?
Well, I would do it anyway, because again, going back to that stat there, the 48% of Amazon display ads impact upon non-Amazon sales. So what that basically shows us is that consumers aren't just using Amazon as a buying platform, they're using it as a search tool. Yeah. Because it's more effective than Google, really, because it's just all products.
Yeah, but you see it, and anyone that's listening, do it as a test now. Take out your phone, go on to Google, and as we said, type in something, and up at the very top is going to come up a couple of options to buy, and I can guarantee you the majority of those are going to be Amazon.
Probably, yeah.
You know, so they're winning the market on that. Go on, give us another news item.
Other news item then, where are we at? So interestingly, Beyond Meat.
As you can, anyone listening in, I haven't come up with that, and really Dave was doing all the work tonight.
You started a new job, to be fair, after your month of leisure, as I called it. We did feck all day basically.
I did, yeah.
But in terms of Beyond Meat, it's interesting. So after a 200% rise in sales last quarter, sales are now only at a 40.5% growth rate, which again is still very, very impressive. But they basically posted a quarterly loss, and their shares are down about 29%.
Which company
is interesting? This is Beyond Meat. So this is the plant-based substitute product, essentially. So it's just
vegan friendly kind of stuff.
It's vegan friendly. But I mean, I suppose what I find interesting about these brands, and another one like the Impossible Burgers, another one is that they're not really pitching themselves solely towards vegans or anything like that. They're more focused towards the kind of flexitarian market, so people who want to consume healthy I used it, of course. I didn't make it up. So people who move between being vegetarians versus being
fully vegan or
omnivore. Is omnivore carnivore? I don't know, whatever the phrase
all I'm going to say is
I'm
right,
not a biologist.
The two of us are not vegetarians or vegans, but all I'm begging you, Dave, is please do not insult any of our listeners that are vegetarian or vegan.
By asking me not to insult them, they are now presuming that I would have insulted them if you didn't tell me to insult them. And now because of that, they're insulted.
Yeah. No, he's a lovely fella, really.
But that's it, yeah. But there's but what I thought, so there was a few things then that came out on the back of that when they did a little bit of research in terms of how that company is actually developing and looking to develop, and they've got a partnership with McDonald's. They've just released something called the Mac Plant line. Now it's not exclusively Beyond Meat products. McDonald's are partnering with a number of companies in this particular space, but they're partnering with McDonald's, and they're also after partnering with Pizza Hut in the UK, and they're after creating 2 products which are beyond name the pizza here product. I think one of them is called Beyond Italian Sausage Pizza or something like that. So these are being marketed as, again, they're not vegetarian, they're in the main product category as a pizza to enjoy, not because you're a vegetarian or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so open to anyone to order, basically. Like, you know.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting, the head of marketing there, I think he's the head of marketing director, David Graves for Pizza Hut, basically came out with a quote last week where he said, I challenge anyone to taste the difference between the Beyond Meat pizza product versus the traditional pizza products that they use. And I would imagine there are a lot of meat suppliers, premium meats and stuff like that, who have heard that and they're probably not very happy about it, because it's the first time ever, if you hear the word substitute product, it's immediately a lesser product because it's a substitute. What these companies are doing quite well is that they're kind of reconditioning how consumers think about the term substitute, in that it's a substitute in that it tastes like meat but it's better for you. So it's this kind of laddering effect whereby we're saying that no, we taste the same but we're healthier for you, so why wouldn't you consume our product? So from a messaging perspective and from a branding perspective, I think what these companies are doing is quite clever. And again, they're using meat phraseology. Like, I mean, a company that doesn't sell meat having meat in the name of their brand is bizarre, but Beyond Meat Impossible Burger, it's really interesting.
There was a couple of weeks ago, I think there was something about it was some vegan, it was a vegan or vegetarian butcher. I just seen something on Twitter basically, but they sold out in the first week, like, you know, but it had a picture of a cow in the front of the building and it had, like, you know, a pig on the inside and stuff, and I'm like, how are you getting away with this, really? Like,
I think I think there was something there during the week with the European Commission they actually ruled that no, you are legally allowed to call a sausage made out of lentils and that kind of thing a sausage, which I'm quite offended by, because I don't think you should be allowed to call it that unless it's very, very clear.
You just don't want to be tricked, that's all.
I don't want to be tricked. Can you imagine the mortifying shame of me ordering a burger in a restaurant and then and I enjoying it, and then someone telling me that was made of lentils and rabbit.
It'd be good for you. Good and healthy for you.
That was not a burger. I want a burger. I want a juicy burger. I want it to come from a cow and not come from the ground. That's what I wanted to come from.
Okay.
But it's interesting. Do you want to know my fare? Because I was looking at the news items for this week. I just looked up some of the other brands that are out there. So there's the Impossible Burger, there's Beyond Meat. Do you know what my favourite one is called?
Go on.
It's Kellogg's sub-brand, which are looking to develop the plant-based products, and they call themselves Incognito.
Oh, stop. It's worse if there's someone in the office thinking this.
But hopefully it works. In the title Incognito. How could you? If you came up with that, you'd be delighted. Incognito. And that actually doesn't make sense either, because incognito means that there's actually meat hidden in the product, but anyway, when you think about it, it's not great. But I thought it was clever all the same.
If whoever came up from it is listening in now, he's basically
you've ruined that now. Yeah, what you've done. But anyway,
very good. Anything else pop up for this week?
Not particularly. I think it's worth mentioning our GIF Local campaign is still going. A lot of local producers. It hasn't really gone beyond Cork as we had hoped, but it's
no, it's been doing fairly well, and thanks to everyone that's after getting involved. You know, I mean, so we're seeing a couple of media heads locally, bar and restaurant managers, hotel managers. They're all getting involved, and it's been really, really good. So for anyone that hasn't maybe listened in the last 2 weeks, we done a little challenge online that's called #GIFLocal. basically you go out, you buy something, you gift it to someone, you share it online, tag the business that you bought it in, and nominate 3 friends to go and do the same. And the whole idea behind it is, obviously it's a bit of fun, you're gifting to friends, but the whole idea behind it is that you're supporting local businesses in this time that they definitely need it.
Go buy stuff. Go buy shit. Yeah. That's it. A lot of people, and again, if you can't afford it, that's fine. Don't have all the people attacking us afterwards saying, "Oh, spend money, we don't have it." But I get it. We get all that. We understand it. There's a lot of people who are working at home because of that. They're not going out to buy lunch when they're in the office. They're saving a lot of money on fuel, petrol, transport, travel. They've got a few extra bob in their pocket. Spend it locally. Get a click and collect. Do whatever you need to do. Go out and spend money in the local facility, in the local, in your local area. And again, it doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. Go out and buy a takeaway coffee 2 or 3 times a week.
What did you do?
What did I do?
Yeah.
I bought coffees and cakes for my
what coffee company?
For my Cork Coffee Roasters.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Not Velo, right? No.
No.
Look, I think one shout out I will give, and it's another coffee. We're all about coffee here. And one shout out we will give is definitely to Aidan Duke of Duke's Coffee. He's been doing a phenomenal job with Gift Local. He's after buying a load of gifts for people. He's after getting a load of Christmas presents already, and all local, which is brilliant. So well done to Aidan. He's definitely leading the way. So yeah, check out #GiftLocal online. You'll see what other people have been doing, and just have a bit of fun with it. Like, really.
Do you remember when we said there that when we were doing this podcast, it was going to be a global audience and it was going to be UK, and now we're thanking Aidan Duke. Hi Aidan, good to hear you listening. In terms of the local, I think we need to pivot. We need to pivot our strategy somewhat, because the only people listening to this are the people who kind of, are in the local.
I've shown you the figures. We've
got, to be fair, we have people in Mexico, the UK, the US. We're growing. We're getting there. Slowly but surely.
Look, thanks very much for listening. Once again, you can follow us across social media, subscribe, keep up to date, and we'll be back again next week, possibly talking about the much anticipated John Lewis advert, but we'll see how it goes. We have a couple of guests lined up coming up over the next couple of weeks as well, so we look forward to bringing that for you. And thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Big Joe's in the White House.
Good luck.